Hello everybody, thanks for joining me again. I think this is going to be a very short video, I hope, and this will be the final stages, as far as I know right now, of this mountain painting which I have been demonstrating the last couple of videos. So I'm excited to get this done and to try some fun things on this painting to make it a little less representational, perhaps, a little more fun. My plans going forward from this point are a little sketchy because I am having surgery on my hand, my right hand, on the 11th of May. They're going to take out the bone in here that's full of arthritis and causes me a lot of pain, but the recovery is supposed to be like 6 months. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but you might see me here in a cast painting with my left hand, and that would be kind of fun too. Anyway, so I'm going to put my gloves back on. I want to talk to you a little bit about what my plan is from this point. So I finished this part up the other day with you, and haven't touched it since. I've sort of been looking at it. There's a couple of things that I am not too happy with, and one was the mess of what's happening in here. So that is an easy fix, and I will show you. I'll uncover my paints. I know you guys probably can't see my palette past about here, so we'll do the best we can. Sorry. I want to get some of that background color, and I check it again. I have still that color left over on my palette because they're sitting underneath my little houses, which is an awesome way to keep the paint wet. So I'm going to check my value is correct before I put it on, and I'm just going to clean up by a little bit of negative painting, a little bit of the stuff that I'm not too happy with. Of course, getting the value the same is, can be a little tricky, so you can just sort of muzz things around a little bit. Let's see, there was a kind of a mess here, but I kind of like it. Not that you can really see it very well. Maybe it just needs another bit of a branch coming out there. But down here where it starts to get yellow, that needs to be fixed. So again, trying to get the right value so that this is a really good thing for learning and checking out if you can mix colors. It's a really good thing to test that. So I just want to clean up just a tiny bit of that, and where it got really dark in here, maybe a little bit of that. That's better. Now I have two branches that are kind of doing the same thing, so maybe I'll take just the end of that one off. That's better. That's looking a little cleaner now anyway. I don't want there to be, gobs of paint here so it becomes obvious that this is what I did. And maybe just that dark thing there to come off. So yeah, that big dark thing might have to go here. Just a little softer. And now we're into the grays again. Back to mixing more values. But I really am loving the flexibility of the oil and cold wax, just to be able to, do things like that, make corrections. So I think that's kind of fun. It kind of looks a little wild, which I like a lot. It doesn't look too perfect or pristine, which is exactly what I'm going for. Just, I want this to feel wild, like it, these aren't trees people are taking care of out here. So I think that's kind of interesting. There is a line pointing down here from these two branches, and it's the same line as that. So I'm not too happy about that. So I'm just going to, I think I'm going to need to lose that one so that it's less important there, and maybe even a little bit less of it broken up a bit there. I think that helps. That's not as directional as it was before. I want to, I have a pocket knife here, and I'm going to try to see what I can do about getting down to some of this red stuff that's underneath this, and just to add a bit more, I don't know, bit more jump, a bit more color, interaction happening in some of this. So I want to use that red that I pulled up in there. So actually here's a part right there. That part could probably go. There we go. Yeah, that's better. That's way better. I think it's better. And I'm the one that counts. It's my painting. So anyway, I could do a bit more of that. I don't want too much attention to this, but what I want to do is I want to have some fun with some pan pastel. So I have picked 4 pan pastels here that go with the color scheme of my painting. I do have a blue also, but it's quite a bright blue and it doesn't really fit in my color scheme. So I'm going to leave that out. And I'm just going to knock a little bit of this pan pastel onto my painting and then just press it into the damp paint. The paint is kind of dry. It's dry, but it's still soft enough to be able to manipulate. So that was kind of fun. I'm wondering what would happen if I did a bit of it up here. Make sure my spatula is clean when I do this. That's kind of fun, isn't it? It kind of feels like the leaves are blowing. I kind of like that. Maybe I could do a bit more of that. I really often love to have leaves that are disassociated from trees. There we go. And then it's really easy if you don't want all of those. So this big one, maybe that could come off. So I can take that off. I kind of have 3 in a line here. So let's take this big blue guy off. And maybe this guy's a bit too big. So I could take some of that off. I think that's kind of fun. Maybe there should be just a tiny bit. The thing is, this is kind of uncontrolled, which is kind of fun. Anything that's uncontrolled is going to make the painting look a bit more abstract, which is kind of what I'm going for. I really don't want a real strong representational look. I'd like it to be just a little abstracted. I don't like all of those, so I'm going to take some of those off. It's so easy to sort of play around and go back and forth. I also have some red here, and since red is underneath, I thought that red might be a fun thing, just a little bit. And I can move it around before I press it in. There we go. That kind of just sparks that ground up a little bit, and I really like to have color that goes off the edge. So I'm just going to push that down in there. So that kind of adds some interest without changing the value. So if I don't change the value of this shape, it's going to hold together as its own shape, which is good. And maybe just a bit of this down here. That's kind of fun. Maybe a little bit of that orange coming off the page too. One of my absolute favorite artists is Brian Ruttenberg, and I was introduced to him by Susan Wolgar, and she was commenting about how he always has bright colors at the edges of his paintings, which is quite unusual thing to do. So I thought that that was kind of a neat thing, and I really like that idea. I don't want to draw a ton of attention over here, but I do have this brown. So what would happen if I just put some of that brown in over here? And maybe a little bit. This is about the same value, the red. So maybe I'll just squish a little bit on there. Yeah, I like that. I'll hold this up to the camera so you can see what that looks like in there. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. My fixes in the color range here, they're not perfect. So the question is, am I gonna worry about it? That's always, you know, if some little tiny detail bothers you, then I guess you should go after it. But the value of those greens is just a tiny bit too dark. So I'm gonna try to mix something a little brighter in there, and without getting it too bright, and see if I can't get some more of that yellow instead of the green that's happening there. And then I want to flatten that. So to flatten the texture there, I'm going to use my soft spatula head and just take down the texture back there, because that's supposed to be happening in the background. I don't want it to have texture, because then it's going to make it want to jump forward. Put a little bit maybe in here, and then just soften that into the background color. And that adds a bit more spice to that. I'm looking now, since I've done that, I'm really noticing the spacing between these three things, which is, this is bigger, but it's getting close. So that would be a really good time to come and maybe do something in here to make that look a little different. Try that and see how that works. So that they're not all saying the same thing. I could, let's see, wonder what would happen. That's what I love about painting, that question. What would happen if? So I'm going to put some red, that's a transparent red oxide, onto this tree trunk here, just because it will make it stand out against that cool blue back there. And then I can just trim off what I don't want, wherever it made a mess or was not what I wanted. And you can sort of play around at that if you want to. I don't want to get too much into that. This might be a nice place to have, you can see there's something going on there. I'm not sure what it is. So I'm going to take just a little bit of warm here and see what would happen if I just put another branch thing, something happening, just to break up that space so that it's not the same as this space. If you can see what I did, I think that that works better. I'm not sure whether this trunk now comes from this tree or that tree. It really doesn't matter. I like the sense of mystery about that, and something needs to happen over here. Not that something. Let me see if I can load this a little better. Just get something going on that's questionable over here, and I've made it go too big, so I just come with the tip of my palette knife and scrape off that uber dark stuff that I don't want. So that's a really easy change. And I have, this is quite dark, and I'm wondering, do I like it? I wonder what would happen if I scraped. Now when I scrape, I'm shaking, so that's not, sometimes that's not the greatest thing, but anyway, it's okay. Maybe we'll just do something else there by scraping it a different way. And I can also go in with a tool that is a little flatter and easier for my hand. So this is just a, I don't know even where I got this stick from, but I can come, and because it's a little wider and it has a wider bottom, I can actually use it to scrape a bigger mark and maybe lose some of the identical kind of thing that's going on there. I like that. Maybe this could have a mark. Maybe this could also have a mark. There. Okay, I like that. I like the orange that's going on there. One thing I was going to do, I told you I was going to clean up the edge of this mountain. But you know, as I'm looking at it, I kind of like the fact that it has some of that red. It's kind of lost and found edges. So I think that's working okay. So that's that. I do have some green. This is probably overkill, but maybe if I just put a little bit of it in there, it could live there. Just adds, it's a cool, although it's a warm yellow, it's still a cool against all the rest of this stuff. So that's kind of fun. And what would happen? Restraint, Sharon, restraint. If I put a little tiny bit of it up in there. Yeah, I kind of like that. All right. Well, if it's good there, it's going to be good somewhere else, right? That's where I get myself into trouble. But I can always pick it off. So there's really no risk here, because if you don't like it, you can just take it off. Ooh, that's kind of fun. I like that. All right, so that's going to be it. And I was asked how to sign my work. And so I just have this old dead pen, and I would just sign it wherever something needs a little bit of oomph, because it's going to be red. I just popped red there, so I think it probably should go over here. Oh, maybe there's not enough contrast here. Ha! Well, what are we going to do about that? We need to add some contrast down there so I can sign my name. Okay, so let's get some, what do we want here? Something that's a bit darker. Maybe a bit of that green might work down here. So that, just so that there's some contrast here, so my signature stays up. I learned the effect of the cool effectiveness of having something happening where your signature is, and I really like to play around with that. Actually, I quite like that green down there, so maybe I'll put a bit more of it over here. Yeah, that was probably overkill. It was probably good here and not so good here. All right, so let's see if that's enough to be able to see my signature. There we go. Keep wiping this thing off. Oh, that showed good there. All right, that's good enough. Anyway, yeah, I like it that you can't really see it, but it's there. So that's the bottom corner. That's how I sign my name. And I think this painting is done for now. So I hope you enjoyed that.